All right, listen, we should get to some football from last night.
Mm.
You know what? So Forge lose 2-0 to Monterrey. Conditions were just appalling. The pitch was terrible. I felt for these guys. Sometimes, like Brian White, Mo Babuli a couple of times, they look like, what are you doing? Like just kick the ball in the net. But because the pitch was so frozen, you know how it is, momentum and how you don't. It was such an unnatural environment for a footballer. It was a tough place to play. At the same time, it was a pretty entertaining match, maybe because of that, Dubs. But in the end, 2-0 to Monterrey. Okay, a loss is a loss. It sucks. You're going to Mexico now, probably not advancing. But again, I think CPL can hold its head collectively quite high from that performance, don't you think?
Yes, I think so. But I have to go back to what you were saying first, is they're going to rue those missed chances.
Oh.
And it wasn't straightforward, as you said, because of the pitch conditions. It was so slippery. It was icy. There was some uncertainty with their footing, and certainly, especially the second one on the cross from Hajipapur. Is that how you say his name?
Mm-hmm.
That's very good. It's like
I don't know,
Hungarian,
maybe
spice.
like a 7 on 10. But it was not straightforward, and Forrest made a great point. So there's 2 goalkeeping points that I want to get to that I brought up, and then Forrest kind of confirmed. But the first one was on that cross. It looked like it was, again, a gaping net, similar to the chance that White had in the first half. Where there, I was just like, how do you not get a foot on it? But yeah, the net's yawning and gaping, but the keeper gets a touch to it. So it changes its trajectory. It's not just a tap-in. But the second goal for Monterrey, which was a beautiful strike, it was a worldie, but I was so perplexed at the placement of the wall. Like, there were 2 Monterrey players in the middle. That's fine. You have to contend with that. But the Forge wall was on either side of it, and then there's holes. It looked like Swiss cheese. It was really, really strange to me. And, does the wall placement change the fact that that is a goal? Probably not. But I was still stunned at how poor it was. But yeah, to your point, I think they're going to be up against it in the return leg. But I think it does kind of stamp, sort of CPL's place in the world game. That is, they're going to have to continue to chip away at it and start to get some results here, because I know they've been up against some giants of the game and some real, storied Mexican clubs in the draw here in like 3 years running, I think, before that CONCACAF Champions League and then the CCC. But it'd be nice to see them at least get on the board and get a goal.
Yeah, they did okay. They did okay. And then obviously you're playing against a team that's really in mid-season form, as opposed to a team that's played their last competitive match months ago when we were in Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in preseason. So that's a really tough situation to be in for anybody. And it would be the same the other way around too, I would think. But overall, they don't look massively out of place.
No, and even I was thinking, I just looked up Liga MX on my morning constitutional, getting ready for the show, and they're in their 5th week. They've already played 5 games. They've already had training camp. They've been gelling as teams, as clubs, as partners on the field. And at times, yes, the cold looked like it was affecting the Mexican Monterrey side in the first half, really a lot more than Forge. But my God, the second half Monterrey squad was much more together, looked like they played a lot of soccer together.
They brought in some of the veterans too, right? It started the game off with a lot of youngsters, and it wasn't the full strength team. But that's fine. Okay. It's Monterrey, it's one of the top teams in the region, right? Not just in Mexico, but in the region, right? So I understand perhaps they weren't plus in those conditions, but still, that takes nothing away from Forge, who look like they're going to be another tasty outfit this season. I mean, man for man,
decent crowd there too.
Yeah, too bad Jimmy's not. I want to find out what the atmosphere was like. I mean, there wasn't that many, but I mean, considering the conditions, it was decent, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So if you were there, good for you. Like respect. That's important, right? To show where we're coming as a soccer nation.
And I did make the comment, the Mexican side, tights and gloves, and they won. So there you go.
Hey, but I had tip too. I think it was Charlie O'Connor of the CPL. He was doing the count, and I think it was just it was just Carl Becker who went short sleeves. And
with gloves.
With gloves, admittedly,
Mm-hmm.
not great, not ideal, but no long sleeves under the shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So very white arms.
You do want what Victor was saying you shouldn't have is the homemade mitts with the string, with the piece of wool and connected. So if they took out their hands hot, they could take them off. That's what you'd love to see too.
Those aren't great for the throw-ins either.
No, they're not.
Quite slippery. Yeah.
Yeah. You leave the ball behind. You just,
as a football nerd, though, I'd say it was pretty cool seeing Martin de Michelis on the sidelines for Monterrey. What a player he was in his day. Back at Bayern Munich for years. He was brilliant. Argentina. He played at Man City for a couple of years too. But just an all-round brilliant defender in his day. And it's just I didn't even realize he was coaching Monterrey. Won't lie to you. So that was pretty cool. Nerddom taking effect there. Certain players kind of jump out, from years past. He's one of them. You mentioned Victor. Do you want to get some comments now, Wonga?
Well, we only have that one page of them, and they're very vitriolic. So I'll let you read them, Sharps.
I want to hear Forrest about the wall.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Did you have anything to add to that, Forrest? Because I mentioned it because I thought it looked kind of shambolic and it looked amiss. It looked off. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, but because the camera angle from behind the net, it didn't look as though the goalkeeper was all that comfortable with anything that was going on in front of him. He was leaning over. Don't know if he wanted to change the wall, which side it was on. He's find himself in a very central position of the net. You gotta expect that wall is gonna do its job, or if it's a brilliant set piece and it's going over top of it in the top corner, that's fine. But protect the side where you're at, and you need another body in there, at least in the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Because the net was like it was very big, and the opportunities to go right or left was ample. They could have done a whole number of different things, and I think he was worried about the right-footed shot, worried about it over the wall, but not at all comfortable at all. There was way too much net was seen. Not to say that he would save it anyway, but the fact that he was in a more central position, I think he should have been, because the wall wasn't enough people in it and it wasn't set up properly.
Is that challenging for a goalkeeper with about 25 yards out, and it's quite central, like it's right in the middle? So as a goalkeeper, where are you putting the ball then? Is it based on your strength?
No, well, not really. I mean, you should be strong on going both ways, but if you have some knowledge about who's taking their free kicks, and if there's somebody with a wand of a left foot or right foot, or what they like to do more than ever, maybe you change your wall accordingly to force them into using somebody else, or left or right foot, weaker player perhaps, if you know that much about them. But generally the Mexican sides are pretty talented and can do whatever, but make sure you set it up that you can protect one side of the net, and I don't think he was really comfortable with that.
Craig, when you are doing that and you're doing your calculus as a keeper, are you mitigating risk and decreasing their options? Is that how you are approaching it, kind of on a very logistical approach?
Yeah, you are. And you're deciding on whether you're having 3, 4, or 5 people on the wall is obviously important. But the more you have on the wall, the more bodies are around, or more free people there are to potentially be part of that set piece as well. But generally speaking, set the wall up, and from that close, I would have had 5 in the wall from there.
They were 2 good goals, though, weren't they? In fairness, I mean, wall or otherwise, in those conditions, they weren't like scrappy goals. They're beautifully played goals.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, I have to say though, had Forge been able to get a foot on a couple of their options, those would have been nice looking goals too.
The Brian White one's the one. That's the craziest one, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
The one where he just got all tangled up in his feet. It seemed like, I don't know what happened there, and it's just. I didn't see the post game show. Did they interview Bobby or anyone about the misses? I don't know.
I didn't see anything in the post game, but you wonder there if it's more than just an icy surface and a little bit of uncertainty about how he's going to approach the ball, and maybe he heard a shout. The ball's coming across there. I think it surprises him in the first place, but maybe he's trying to leave it for somebody, because as a striker, like how, like just toe it, right? Like toe poke that. Yeah. It's just really odd to me that it was almost like he was trying to avoid the ball.
And even if you hear a shout, you're Brian White, right? You're there for a reason. You're one of the top players in the league. But listen, I wasn't on the pitch at that time. I have no idea what happened exactly and what the conditions are like underfoot. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
I think in most occasions, Brian Wright can score from 1 foot out. 2 feet out. In most occasions, I think it's fair to say. Didn't do it on purpose.